My life is on a completely different trajectory, and had I not had the therapy, I wouldn't be doing this. It was completely transformative, and now that I feel so much freer, I am pursuing things that give me joy, and that's a new thing for me.
This is stuff that I carried for decades, and I was able to put it away and move forward, and my life has changed in amazing and fabulous ways.
I was experiencing intrusive thoughts, intrusive images, and suicidal ideation. A professor of mine who was a retired psychiatrist came to me and said, "I think that you have PTSD and you should get some help." And I didn't believe him, and then I went home and looked up PTSD and was shocked to find that what was going on in my head was not normal. Images of abuse and the things that were said to me as a kid just kept replaying in my mind like a tape. And talk therapy never got rid of that, which is why I went to EMDR, because I read that it would get rid of that, and it did.
I've been diagnosed with anxiety and depression, ADHD, and substance use disorder prior to discovering I had PTSD. I was desperate. I really needed some help, and I was really at the end of the rope. I couldn't go to work because I was monitoring conversations in every room of the building, to the extent where I couldn't hear my own thoughts. I lost 40 pounds in a month. I was sleeping 2 hours a day. The thing that was at the bottom of it all was a lifetime of trauma.
Most people's problems are caused or made worse by trauma or loss. A lot of people who treat trauma are helping people to cope with their symptoms. We use a trauma healing approach. We only offer intensive trauma-focused therapy. And if you ask 100 prospective therapy clients, do you want to get better next week or next year? About 100 of them will tell you next week.
I had so much trauma starting from my childhood going on into my adult life. To be able to get rid of all of that in that one brief, powerful week is what changed my life.
So this is what's really unique about the Trauma Institute, is that you come for a full day, 8 hours, for 4 to 5 days straight. This retreat model allows you to get a lot of work done in a short amount of time.
People do EMDR, progressive counting, they'll do a session a week. I feel like that's death by 1,000 cuts for me. I got it all done in 6 days, and it hasn't been back to haunt me. This was a really bad high-speed downhill mountain bike crash that I had.
I'm going to ask you to watch this in your mind like it's a movie.
Okay.
While I count from 1 to 10.
Okay.
Okay? So when I say 1, be at the beginning of the movie.
Yep.
When I say 10, you should just be finishing up. Be at the beginning. And 1, 2, 3, 4. With progressive counting, the client will be instructed to run the memory like a movie. And they will do this while the therapist counts at first to 10, and then they run it again at 20, and then 30, and we keep going up. As the person opens up the movie of the memory more and more details will start to come in, and people find that they start to see the memory a little differently.
When I was a little kid, I remember running up the driveway and I fell and I skinned my knees, and it was really painful, and I cried, and my mom said, "Oh, that doesn't hurt." And it was a recurring theme in my life, and I got really confused about pain. I was able to explore the spaces to some extent, and I was able to even recall things that I hadn't been able to recall that kind of made the memories more bearable, and the traumatic response to them, it's gone. We rate them on a scale of 0 to 10. I had a bunch of 10s, and they're all 0s now.
EMDR, progressive counting, and other trauma therapies out there tend to rely on similar mechanisms to do the work. The trauma therapy will involve opening up the memory in some way so that you're thinking about it or accessing it, along with a distracting element. In progressive counting, the distraction element is the therapist counting. For EMDR, the distraction is eye movements. Both are effective in that they desensitize the memory, meaning they make it hurt less and less and less, but they also help to bring new material and new understanding to the memory in a way that the person might not be able to do on their own. And what came up?
I want to be safe.
Okay, go with that. What came up?
That's incredible. Much better.
Okay.
Much better. If you are uncomfortable talking about whatever it is that is plaguing you, you don't have to. The therapist will say, come up with a memory. You come up with the memory, and you just give them a word. You could say car, and only you know what car means. It's processed through your own head. So if you are uncomfortable sharing things, this is definitely a therapy that would be beneficial to you.
It used to be like they were all right here in my short-term memory, and it was a hurdle that I had to go across to do absolutely everything in my life. And it's as if they were surgically removed from here and tucked into my long-term memory.
You're keeping those memories, but they have no power over you anymore. I used to have bad reactions when people would just show up unannounced at my house or at my job, because growing up that meant that someone was dead or someone overdosed or something horrible happened. And so as an adult, I had negative reactions to that. I don't have negative reactions to that anymore.
Stuff that happens to us as children that's handed down generationally, you know, stuff that was done to your parents that were done to them by their parents, done to them by their parents. Those things add up and create a set of behaviors that equate to trauma. I tell people I am cured of PTSD. I do not suffer from the symptoms of that anymore.
After the therapy, I got into a special program for marine science and policy and sailing, and fell in love with it. And I think had I not had the therapy, one, I wouldn't have had the courage to even try to get into this special program. I wouldn't have had the courage to go sailing. And there is no way I would be doing this, because it's given me the freedom and the belief in myself and the belief that I'm worthy of having what makes me happy.
I am so much more myself now, you know, without carrying this trauma with me than I've ever been in my entire life. And well, I like to tell people I came out the other end a completely different person than I was going in. I came out the other end me.